please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
We have a news alert on tax reform. Elon Moy in Capitol Hill with the details. Elon?
Kelly, NBC News has confirmed that President Trump will be coming to Capitol Hill on Thursday. He'll be speaking to House Republicans ahead of the planned floor vote on the tax reform bill. Now, there are still lots of differences between the House version of the bill and the Senate's version of the bill that still need to be ironed out. I'm outside the Senate Finance Committee hearing today where they are debating some of those contentious issues that are still outstanding, such as the estate tax. The Senate version of the bill would double the exemption for individuals to $11 million, while the House version of the bill would double the exemption, but then get rid of the estate tax altogether after 7 years. Another hot button issue is a state and local tax deduction. On that issue, it's the Senate that gets rid of that deduction entirely. The House version of the bill would just limit the deduction to $10,000 for property taxes. Now, Ways and Means Committee Chairman Kevin Brady has already drawn a line in the sand, essentially saying that full repeal is not going to fly in the House. So that is one issue to watch in the coming weeks as well. And President Trump today threw himself into the mix. I wonder if we'll bring this up on Thursday. He tweeted about his desire to lower the top rate for individuals to 35%. He also wants to see a repeal of the individual mandate included in any legislation that goes forward. Now, on that top rate for individuals, both in the House and the Senate, lawmakers have put this off the table for some time now because making the numbers work was simply too difficult. On the individual mandate, I'm told that Senate leadership is coming under heavy pressure from conservatives out entirely because repealing the individual mandate, Kelly, does get them several $100 billion that can start to look really tempting when they're trying to pay for some of those tax cuts. Back over to you.
That's true. Elon, thank you. Elon Moy with the latest on Capitol Hill. Time now for a CNBC News update. Let's get over to Sue Herrera. Sue?
Hello, Kelly. Here's what's happening at this hour, everyone. Prosecutors in Pennsylvania announcing new charges against 17 members of a former fraternity at Penn State University. This after authorities recovered deleted video that showed some members of the fraternity serving alcohol to 19-year-old Timothy Piazza, who later died falling down the basement steps. Jurors in the bribery trial of New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez have sent the judge a note saying that they cannot reach a unanimous verdict on any of those charges. The judge excused the jurors for the day, told them to return Tuesday to continue deliberating. Ivanka Trump and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin discussed the GOP tax reform plan in New Jersey today. Ivanka has been promoting the plan at appearances throughout the country, but the proposals in Congress right now pose some problems for New Jersey residents. And new medical guidelines just released have lowered the threshold for high blood pressure, adding 30 million Americans to those who have that condition. That means nearly half of U.S. adults now have high blood pressure, up reading to 130/80 from 140/90. That's the news update this hour. Kelly, back downtown to you.
Sue, thank you very much.
You got it.
Sue Herrera. Let's take a look at how we finished on Wall Street. The Dow did manage to stay in positive territory by 17 points on the bell there. The S&P up 2.5, the Nasdaq up 6, and the Russell turned lower on the bell. But for the Dow and the others, it was a comeback from some bigger declines earlier in the session. Let's get to some of the other big stories today in our rapid recap.
Alibaba smashing its Singles Day record once again.
Alibaba racked up $25 billion in sales, and JD, Alibaba's rival, another $19 billion.
G.I. Joe makes a takeover bid for Barbie. Shares of toy makers Mattel and Hasbro up sharply this morning.
News just breaking from Dow Component. GE is cutting its dividend by 50% to 12 cents a share.
New CEO John Flannery saying that GE will focus on its core businesses, power being one of them, but also aviation and healthcare. His plan, exit $20 billion plus in assets over the next 2 years.
Here it is, warts and all. The problem is there's a lot of warts. I mean, like a huge number of warts. Like, you know, get me to a dermatologist now.
What the hell does CNN, part of AT&T or Warner Future, has nothing to do with any position in terms of what's right or wrong about media consolidation. It's nuts.
Tyson Foods posting better than expected earnings and revenue in the fourth quarter, driven by strong demand for chicken and beef.
Consumers want protein, and they want it all the time. It's now the #1 health attribute that consumers want in their diet.
Yeah, even breakfast cereal. Now, the Cheerios,
Yes.
It's all about how much protein.
With added protein. Yeah.
How long have you been up? Did you eat protein this morning?
I was up. I've been up since, like, it feels like yesterday.
Yeah, it probably
About
was
3 in the morning. But you saw me at 5 a.m. on WEX, so, I mean, you know.
Yes, no, that's true.
You were up to speed early.
Every morning I set that alarm, 4:59.
Well, tomorrow
Yeah.
as well. So.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Eat some protein. Time now for the takeaway. We begin with Missouri's Attorney General launching a probe into Google to see whether it has violated the state's antitrust and consumer protection laws. At issue is Google's collection of consumer data, as well as the issue European regulators find the company over, its manipulation of search to favor its own offerings. Now, our feds looked into this years ago, Mike. They closed the case. What happens if more states line up behind Missouri?
I guess a nuisance becomes a slightly bigger nuisance if more do. I mean, the instinct, I think, is to be a little bit cynical about this effort. It's a little bit of an attention grabber, but it still spotlights some of these nagging issues that other authorities have also had about Google's business.
I just wondered, is everything become a tobacco thing? Well, if all 50 states get on board and shake down the company, then they can get, X many millions of dollars.
The kind of, again, the cynical take is state attorneys general have a great incentive to sort of grandstand and bring attention, and this particular one is running for the Senate. So, you never know if this is really about a true concern about customers, or if it's just a little bit more of a gesture to say, hey, let's go after the big scary business.
Or if they know that the climate is maybe right to revisit the issue, given how big these companies have gotten and the concerns people have. Next, as the bull market roars on, CalPERS may be cutting its exposure to equities, but it doesn't seem to mind that the bond market rally is also long in the tooth. Reports say CalPERS could boost its fixed income from 19% of the portfolio today to as high as 44% of it. Equities are currently at 50%, but could fall to just over a third of the portfolio. If they do this, they also have to cut their 7% return target, Michael, maybe to 6.5%, which then requires bigger contributions from taxpayers. Does any of this make sense to you?
Well, the math makes sense in terms of, I think this is the fix that basically every big fiduciary is in, that looks at these asset allocation models and looks at expected returns for different asset classes. So right now, the way equities are valued, right or wrong, the expected return should be well below average for the next 10 years. What does that mean? Should you maybe just say, fine, we can tilt away from them, get a little safer in fixed income, which does mean reducing those return expectations, which is painful, but it also maybe reflects reality a bit more.
Sort of ironic. This should be some of the longest term money, and they feel like, you can't take, forget 5 or 10 years, but even a quarter or two of underperformance.
Well, they could probably take a couple of quarters, but what they can't do in their minds is another 2008, where their equity position gets cut in half, and all of a sudden, they're imperiled in terms of meeting their liabilities.
It's a quandary. They have to get 7%, and if they don't, then everyone else has to kick money in.
But like an individual household that can't let the market do its savings for it, it has to just save more. But the problem is these states and municipalities, they have no appetite for that.
Zero. Finally, the CEO of Madison Square Garden has stepped down, effective immediately, to be replaced by Executive Chairman James Dolan on an interim basis. Outgoing CEO David O'Connor has only been there a couple of years. The stock did sell off on this news, Mike, but what do you make of it?
It doesn't surprise me the stock sold off on the news just because of the suddenness of it, and there was zero explanation for what's going on. Plus, the Dolan family, they had all these great assets. They've spun a bunch of them apart, but I don't think anyone ever thought that they were the ones to necessarily run the business day to day. My joke was that he wants to take credit for the fact that Knicks are finally good. They're in 5th place in the Eastern Conference with only 70 games to go.
I'm cheering for them every night they're on.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to watch. Now, look, the stock was down 2%, but only back to the level it was at about 12 days ago. So it's been a great stock. People still like the story, but maybe there's another shoe to drop in terms of what exactly precipitated this.
That's what I feel like we need to know more. Check the New York Post in the morning. We have a news alert on Buffalo Wild Wings. Kate Rogers has the details. Kate?
Hey there, Kelly. That's right. The stock is moving higher by more than 20% right now. This on a Dow Jones headline that private equity firm Rourke Capital has made an offer to take over the company, valued at more than $2.3 billion. Now, remember, Buffalo Wild Wings is in kind of a slump. It is facing those higher chicken prices. Also, slower foot traffic in stores, and once again the stock is moving higher, nearly 30% now on this Dow Jones headline that private equity firm Rourke Capital has made an offer to buy for $2.3 billion. Back over to you.
Wow. Kate, thank you. All right, Mike, here we go. 28% higher for Buffalo Wild Wings. The stock has been selling off, and whether the last couple of years they've, just kind of struggled with the declines in TV football ratings and so forth. maybe it seems like the right time to do something like this, to take it private. You don't want to do it when they're trading at all-time highs.
It came down into a zone of below a $2 billion market value, where it seems, I'm sure the balance sheet can be leveraged at this level too, where it seems like maybe a mid-sized private equity firm can go with a specialty. It seems in the restaurant business, maybe wants to make a go of it as a private company.
They have to have a pretty long-term view on this, though.
Sure.
Let me just put this out there. 5 or 10 years from now, they want to make that exit, and NFL games are on Amazon.
I would say more likely 5 than 10, but no, I mean, obviously those are the big risks. But I do think that you can maybe steer. Look, I still think people, maybe I'm wrong about this, are going to go out and watch something as they have beer and wings. But I do think that this is the kind of company that's really lost the faith of investors when it tries to make its numbers quarter to quarter. That's the type of environment where you say, look, take them off the board for a while, see if they can figure it out in private.
Do a little bit of a cleanup.
So we'll see if this is a real bid and all the rest.
Absolutely. We have a news alert on Seth Klarman's Baupost hedge fund. Seema Modi has the details. Seema?
Hi, Kelly. That's right. This is, of course, the value investing hedge fund dissolving its entire stake in Qualcomm. Keep in mind, its stake in Qualcomm was a $300 million holding. Baupost is also initiating a new stake in AMC Entertainment, a bold move. That stock is down about 60% this year. It's also adding to its position in Allergan, that holding now worth over $600 million. So those are just some of the big moves here as we look through the quarterly filing. Back to you, Kelly.
Seema, thank you. Mike, just to reiterate, this is going back to the end of September.
That's right.
These positions, there a lot could have happened between now and then. I mean, he's a long-term
long-term, contrarian, very deep value. When you're very deep value in a market like this, you're buying some stuff that's been banged up. AMC Entertainment, movie theaters.
AMC is a real interesting one.
Sure is.
All day, CNBC has been at the Virtuous Circle Summit in San Francisco, where top leaders are gathering to share ideas about the internet economy and ecosystem. Julia Borson is out there, and she is now joined by Reddit's CEO, Steve Huffman. Julia?
Thanks so much, Kelly. And Steve, thanks so much for joining us here today.
It's my pleasure.
So you are in the process of totally overhauling Reddit. You have a redesign that's launching early next year. And you also just today announced a new chat feature, kind of like Slack. How do all of these fit in with your attempt to compete with all the other services out there, all the other ways people could be spending their time, from entertainment to Facebook?
Sure. So really what we're trying to do is make Reddit the home of community and connection and belonging online. And so what we're trying to do is create as many surface areas as possible for our users to connect and share, whatever it is they want to talk about.
And so how much do you think your changes are going to help grow your user base and also revenue? You have a $1.8 billion valuation.
Sure. I mean, the user base, I think it's a tremendous opportunity because Reddit is already big, but we can be quite a bit larger. And there's, I think, a little bit of a disconnect between the way I talk about Reddit as this incredible place where you can find a community for anything, and what you might encounter on our front page today, which can be hard to grok at first. And on the revenue side, we're growing there too. I think we can obviously always grow more, but I think with more users comes more revenue. It's pretty
But
natural.
so you just this summer raised another $200 million at a $1.8 billion valuation. What does this say about your IPO plans?
Well. Our investors, I think when somebody invests at that valuation, they expect a return, a significant return at some point. And that's the contract, we sign up for. And both for our employees as well, where compensation is largely through equity, out here in the Bay. And we're no different. So I think we have an obligation to, find liquidity for our people at some point.
And time frame?
We've got a little ways to go yet.
3 years, 4 years? What kind of?
I would say at least, but it's hard to say. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and IPO. We'll give you plenty of warning.
Okay, Kelly?
I'm still stuck on the word grok, but Steve, appreciate you being here. I just wanted to ask you, if you guys are looking towards an IPO down the road, you're going to get unbelievable scrutiny. Does that scrutiny mean you're going to do more to clean up the site?
Yes and no. I think we want to clean up the site regardless. That's always been, I think for the last couple of years in particular, an effort of ours. As Reddit has grown, we've become incredibly broad, and we have viewpoints that cover pretty much every topic, which is, I think, one of our best strengths. But it also means we need to be more, I think, strict about our content policy with time to make sure that Reddit stays welcoming and safe for all of our users. But at the same time, we also want Reddit to stay Reddit. And Reddit will always be edgier than some of our peers. And we think about it as it's the most human place on the internet, and we don't want to lose that either.
And when you say edgier than your peers, who do you consider your peers? Do you think you're up against Facebook and Twitter? And do you see the threat of them trying to perhaps recreate some of your more popular features?
I mean, we do compete with Facebook and Twitter and all media companies for where their users, spend their time and what do they do with their downtime. And we think Reddit is the most productive way to spend your downtime because you can come and laugh and learn and give advice and receive support and all sorts of, wonderful things that people do when they're together. And so we think less about them and more about how do we make the user experience on Reddit as best it can be, and how do we take the things that users are already doing on Reddit and make them easier.
And well, we look forward to seeing that redesigned service and the redesigned platform, and also hearing more as you inch towards that IPO. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. Kelly, back over to you.
Thank you, Julia, and Steve Huffman, the CEO of Reddit. And Mike, to me, monthly active users on par with Twitter for Reddit.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have guessed maybe it was up there 50 to 75%.
I guess if you think about it, it's maybe a little more dispersed, right? I mean, there's some users that really are only tunneled into one area, but it is an impressive number. And I wonder what they can do in terms of data, in terms of sort of determining, just trends even to sell.
I wonder if the users want to scrub a lot of that data.
Yeah,
That's another story. 332 million active monthly users for Reddit there. Today's closing word is interest. We'll tell you why next.